Hey everybody, welcome to Animal Activism Collective's YouTube channel. Really excited about our talk today about the state of the fur industry. I have an excellent panel here with me today. Before we get too deep into things, I just want to read a little disclaimer here. While Animal Activism Collective supports the overall mission of animal liberation, our organization was not involved in recent ALF actions, and we are simply reporting on it here. And we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. I want to introduce the panelists that we have here with us today. Dr. Jerry Vlasic is a longtime activist and press officer with the North American Animal Liberation Press Office. We're also joined by Susie, who's a campaigner and organizer on the planning team of Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade, also known as CAFT. And we're also joined by Lauren of CAFT, who's also on the planning team and focuses on anti-fur corporate pressure campaigns and more. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm going to dive right into it and talk about some of the numbers that were released by the USDA about mink farming in the United States in 2024. So from what I read, it is down, the mink pelt production is down 19% from last year. The total value of pelts are down 14%, and the number of female mink bred to produce kits is down 7%. I really think that 19% number, pelt production being down 19% in a year, that seems pretty huge to me. I was looking at the overall numbers from the last, decade plus, and there's really been a clear downward trend since about 2014, with a steep decline during, around 2020 when COVID was happening. And I'd just like to kind of go around the horn and hear from each of you, like, what does this say about the state of the fur industry right now? Let's start with Lauren.
I've always seen fur as kind of like the energetic center of the animal rights movement. I think it's like historically been something that motivates us as anti-fur activism. And it has these dips. Right now, it's in the lowest dip we've seen. So fur is definitely weakened. Pelt prices are down by so much. Some estimates are that the animals that have been removed from the fur industry via them not being bred into it is as many as 40 million over the past 2 years. So we're definitely seeing a downward trend, but we've seen this downward trend several times in the last few decades, and I just worry that the downward trend cycles the industry into a reaction where they try to do CPR on the fur industry.
Yeah, Dr. Vlasic, could you speak to that a little bit? Because I know in the 90s, around that time, a lot of people were, kind of just thinking that fur is just going to phase out, and maybe the animal rights movement just sort of took their foot off the gas a little bit. And it seems like the industry kind of rose back from the ashes. So can you just talk about some of these numbers, but also the importance of, keeping your eye on the prize as far as anti-fur work goes?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that we have thought the fur industry was finished before, back in the 1990s when there was a decrease, and a lot of the national organizations deprioritized targeting the fur trade. Even though, as grassroots activists at that time, even we kind of all got together and said we're going to concentrate on fur. But when people started feeling like the battle was pretty much over, a lot of people sort of went different directions, and there was a decreased emphasis. And like you said, the fur industry rallies, the designers and people that market fur see their chance, and they go back at it. I think the important numbers that we're looking at today from 2024, 19% decrease in the number of mink killed on U.S. fur farms. That is huge. The numbers estimated last year were 771 million, which sounds like, I'm sorry, that should be 771,000. I see a misprint on the report. 771,000. That is a lot of animals dying, and we've still got a lot of work to do. But compared to the like 2020, 12, 2013, 2014, it was like 4 million. So we've gone from 4 million down to well under a million, 770,000 or so. So I think we've made some huge gains. And the other important thing is that the United States is kind of the leader, if you will, even though it's this bad. I mean, we're not we're doing. I mean, Europe is doing much better than we are. There's dozens of countries now that are either banning fur farming altogether or have done away with it from a practical standpoint. And so there's really very little coming out of Europe. And of course, China, if you look at some of the graphs, is also following suit. So this is a worldwide trend, not just in the United States, but I think the United States is where the trends are set and where we can finish off the fur trade. The other important number that we got from the USDA last week was the number of breeding animals that were anticipated for the following year, and that number was down 7%, which foretells that 2025 is going to be another down year. So we're not in the middle of a rebound at this point. And I think, as Lauren mentioned, the pelt prices are so low, they're still just around the break-even point, which is somewhere in the probably $33 to $35 a pelt range. And it did go up a couple of dollars, but I think with inflation and everything else, that doesn't really represent an increased amount of profit, significant increased profit for the fur profiteers.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you brought that up. I mean, there's still, millions of animals dying, but at the same time, on the bright side, it's really going downhill for the fur industry, it seems like. Um, so I've got here in 2024, the entire U.S. mink industry made just over $28 million, which is $28 million too much, but that's about how much like a backup quarterback in the NFL makes or something like that, just to give you an idea, like one person can make that amount of money. You know what I mean? So for an entire industry, that's a good trajectory. Can you talk, Susie, more about like what these numbers mean to you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I view it as a really good sign that the fur industry is doing really bad right now. Even in China, where fur production is the highest, they've seen those numbers go down, the pelt prices and the amount of fur that's being produced there. It's due to a lot of different things. In my opinion, COVID-19 really hurt the fur industry. Um, and, I think that we can use that to our advantage. There's also been a shift in consumer preferences. Younger generations, they're also, um, looking towards, which is, it's not good or bad, but they're looking towards, vintage furs. But I think they realize the environmental and the ethical concerns surrounding fur. But again, they will always find a way to rebound. I think now is like the perfect time for us to focus on fur and finally finish this industry for good, because they will fight tooth and nail. I think it was like a few months ago, we saw a really coordinated push from the fur industry. They were sending out talking points, and you saw to like different publications, you saw different magazines coming out with articles all in like the span of like a month, talking about, oh, is fur coming back? Is the stigma of fur gone? And we can't let that happen.
Yeah, I want to jump a little bit into the underground actions that happened earlier this month. Dr. Vlasic and I, along with Peter Young, were on a live stream a couple of weeks ago talking about this, but there's been some new information since then. There was a communique sent in by the ALF that I'm just going to quickly read right now. It's not too long. It reads, in the spirit of July 4th, we decided the animals languishing on Ton's mink farm in Massillon, Ohio, deserved their own Independence Day. The fireflies lit our path through the dark as we made our way to the fence, trusty wire cutters in hand. We took our time with this part, cutting only the wire mesh and not the larger wires, which we suspected could activate an alarm system. Once we made it through and saw our first mink, we could not start opening cages fast enough. The mink quickly realized what was happening and started making no small amount of noise, unable to contain their excitement as they jumped from their prison cells. A quick lap around the surrounding sheds confirmed that their noise did not travel far at all. We tore open cage after cage. After emptying several sheds, exhaustion had kicked in, and we made our way back to the fence. A single mink was perched on top of it, just to the right of where we had torn it down, as if to say goodbye and reassure us that they would find their way out. Now, reflecting on this action, all we can think about is how we cannot wait to do it again. Nothing that the cops, government, or fur industry can threaten us with could ever come close to unsettling us as much as the possibility of one day having to look in the mirror and say the animals needed me. They cried out for my help, and I did nothing. Let us be clear. We are sending this communique for one reason alone. It isn't to garner support or seek approval. It's not for likes or fire emojis. This is a call to action. We needed only two things to accomplish what we did: wire cutters and a means of transportation, along with a will to act. Anyone has the same access to fur farms that we did. The animals are crying out for your help now. Stop thinking and doom scrolling and act. The ALF. I think this is a super powerful and beautifully written communique. Um, Dr. Vlasic, I'd like to go to you for this. The message calls for people to stop thinking and doom scrolling and actually act. Do these calls that you've seen in the past, do they actually push people off the sidelines and get more people to act?
Well, I'd like to think so. There was, I think every time we see one of these successful actions, it serves as a motivation for other people to get out there, and this communique was very good in that it emphasized that anybody can do it. There's at finalnail.com, there's a list of all the current fur farms in the country. Somebody lives close to all of these places, which are typically out in the country, and it doesn't take much. One or two people can do what these people did on the night of July 3rd. One or two people can go out there and with a fairly minimal amount of effort, with a minimal amount of expenditure and a minimal amount of tools, can make a huge difference, not only to those individual lives that are being liberated from 100% certain death in November later this year, but also can have a big impact on the livelihood of this fur farmers, and then that reverberates throughout the entire fur industry. So with people like the Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade, targeting the demand side of the equation, and with activists at night targeting the supply side of the fur industry, this is the way to finish it. And I think anybody can get busy. One or two or three people acting independently at night can have a huge impact on this industry, and we can only hope that there will be others stepping up as well.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some of the CAFT campaigns soon, but I want to open it up to anyone from CAFT here to talk about, when the ALF and these underground cells take action like this, does it affect any of the above ground campaigns in any way? Like, does this sort of separately work together?
So right now, I feel like the underground is just a lot less active than it has been in the past. And there were campaigns where there were underground actions taken specifically against campaign targets. I think about 10 years ago, there was a anti-fur campaign against Max Mara where some executive cars were burned. Right now, it obviously creates like a higher cost and risk of participating in the fur industry for the farmers. But I would say the main thing that we see on our side of things is that it creates like a sense of possibility and hope for our activists. And I also think that it kind of removes those invisible walls that we put up for ourselves. We get a lot of folks that will come to a protest and they think holding a sign is illegal. And they are, scared to even just do basic First Amendment protests. And I think seeing the possibilities of what these activists have done with, very little resources and the way they lay it out, like so romantically with the fireflies, and it doesn't sound, like this horrendous, scary experience that nobody normal can go through. I think it just kind of raises the risk tolerance for everybody in the movement.
Yeah, and Susie, I want to go to you next. The idea of that the ALF laid out in that communique, the idea of refusing to just sit and scroll and to actually take action, that's something that we've seen from CAFT in the above ground campaigns. CAFT has been very successful over the last several years. Um, they CAFT has had a track record of these real world wins like Mark Jacobs, Alexander Wang, Oscar De La Renta, YSL. That's just a few. Saks Fifth Avenue. There's a lot. Um, all these brands and designers have dropped first. So, what do you think you've been able? How do you think you've been able to succeed where others? Or I'll just ask that. How do you think you've been able to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, we have an amazing, like, first of all, we have an amazing community of activists that are behind our campaigns and that help us. We have a huge base who are very dedicated. And, that, of course, does a lot. When there's people willing to come out and support your campaigns and do what needs to be done. But there's a lot of research that goes into these campaigns. A lot of pressure. We are out there all of the time. Our tactics. Maybe Lauren can speak a little bit more about this, about our tactics, but which maybe not everybody agrees with, but they have been successful in the past. Yes, maybe I'll pass it to Lauren.
Yeah, we get a lot of flack for our tactics, which are legal street protests, which actually we don't tell people how to protest or how to take part in our campaigns. We announce the campaign and people can take part however makes sense for them in their community. But we have around 50 cities that are doing legal street protests, and some are doing residential picketing, which is going to like the home of an executive and protesting them there. And honestly, this is such a scaled back version of going directly to a mink farm and liberating animals. And it's funny, I was talking to a legislative activist recently, and she was facing all this flack because she was doing a fur ban, like a legal fur ban, through legislative routes, and she was being called, all sorts of names, and she's ruining farmers' lives, and she's targeting the working class. So it's always going to be the wrong way. So I just think you should find the avenue that fits for you and try to do it. And I think you should be always questioning, is what I'm doing impacting the material condition for animals? And I think that if you can deduce that it is, I think that you should try to be as uncomfortable as you can be.
I
Thank
think
you.
pressure campaigns have always been controversial, starting with the Stop Huntington Animal Cruelty campaign back in the 1990s. And the reason that they're controversial is because they get results. And people that are on the other end of these campaigns don't like us getting results. And so the pressure campaigns, by design, create a siege mentality for people who are profiting from animal abuse. And of course, people that are willing to break the law and liberate animals and inflict economic sabotage contribute further to this siege mentality. So I always see it as a cumulative effect, and I think the folks at CAFT are doing terrific work in getting the message out there to people, and I'm always glad to see that these underground activities come in and provide support for that, not to denigrate from them, but to add to their effectiveness in creating this siege mentality against people who abuse animals.
I think that was beautifully put. We have some excellent questions coming in from our viewers. Keep those questions coming in. I'm gonna keep going with what I've got right here for a minute, but I'm definitely gonna get to your questions. So please keep those coming in. This question is for CAFT. How do you choose which brands or companies to pressure at a given time? And then, maybe we could zoom in on Berluti a little bit.
So we prioritize influence, and we target global companies. So we aren't targeting national campaigns or local campaigns right now due to capacity. So we just try to get the biggest impact for animals that we possibly can. So a few years ago, we deduced that LVMH, which is Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, they have brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, Loro Piana. Those are like the big popular ones. And they are one of the biggest outside forces outside of the fur industry that is propping up the fur industry. They are fiercely dedicated to fur. Fendi's slogan is fur is Fendi, Fendi is fur. And they are run by the richest man in the world. He kind of bops around, but he's sometimes the richest man in the world. And they are a huge stronghold in the resurgence of fur. They've invested a lot of money in things like trace programs where you can see that your fur was happy and died with a smile on their face, and all this propaganda about how fur is so ethical. And they've been very resistant to dropping fur due to the luxury factor of it. So at first we had gone after Berluti, not Berluti, LVMH as a whole, and they have dozens of brands. And we tried to just kind of scattershot and hit all of them. We were hitting Tiffany and Co's, we were hitting chop salads. We were we were kind of protesting all over the place. It was maybe not maybe not the right move. But once we started honing in on individual brands like Marc Jacobs and Celine, we started seeing that we could kind of pick off the weakest players. So right now we're on Berluti. There's 4 brands under LVMH that are now fur free, which is really impressive because they were previously told they could never announce a fur free policy. And so we're going after Berluti. And if you don't have a Berluti in your town, we're also, our kind of tertiary campaign is Loro Piana. And we're doing that so we can just kind of chip away under this umbrella before we can get to those big 4 on top, which are Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, and one did I miss?
Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi.
Berluti.
Um, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not remembering. Did I say Loro Piana?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of brands.
Loro Piana, Dior, Louis Vuitton, Fendi.
Yeah, yeah.
There it
Uh,
is.
a quick follow-up to that, when you said that that having 4 go for free under the LVMH brand is huge because they were previously told that they could not go for free. What do you mean by that? Like LVMH told them they're not allowed to go for free? Like what does that mean?
Yeah, so HSUS does some fur campaigns that are mostly digital and corporate engagement type campaigns. And one of their people released an opinion piece where he was talking about how Givenchy was considering going for free, and LVMH as a parent company stepped in and told them no. So this was a few years back. So Givenchy actually was thinking about going for free due to the pressure that HSUS was putting on them, and LVMH stopped it because they see it as a slippery slope. So it was really, that's kind of, if anyone was familiar with the Marc Jacobs campaign, which AAC was a huge, huge collaborator on. Um, we chose Marc Jacobs because Marc Jacobs is kind of like the wiggliest, weakest brand underneath LVMH, and he is heavily based in the United States, which is where most of our activists are based.
Yeah, and I know the feeling that a lot of activists had when Marc Jacobs posted that fur-free policy on his personal Instagram was just huge and very, very validating of CAF's tactics and strategies. It was just a big moment, I think, and what I would consider to be a turning point toward this overall overarching campaign toward LVMH. But I want to switch gears for a minute and talk to you, Susie, about Condé Nast. Now, this is a little bit different of a campaign than what we've normally seen from CAFT, where, CAFT goes after a designer or, a company that actually sells fur. With Condé Nast, who is the parent company of Vogue magazine and several other publications, you're asking them to go fur free in the sense that you don't want them to like promote fur or glamorize fur in their publications anymore. So why is that? Is it just like a culture war, or tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the one of the things that we focus on with CAFT, especially, I think Lauren talked a little bit about it, but like when we go after designers, we go after them because of their cultural relevance is, one of the things that we look at. Um, and with Condé Nast, so they're the parent company of Vogue magazine. Vogue magazine is an incredibly influential publication. They set the trends. So we're asking them to stop promoting fur. They're responsible for bringing fur back into fashion. So that's like one of the reasons why we think it's so important to focus on this campaign right now. So Condé Nast is the parent company. Vogue is one of its subsidiaries. They also own Vanity Fair, The New Yorker, Glamour, what else? Allure. But really, our main focus is on Vogue. If brands can't promote, um, and if the fur industry can't promote any fur in one of the most influential magazines for fashion, I think it'll really start turning the tide even more against fur. Right now, a majority of people are against fur anyway. But yeah, I think this is probably one of our biggest campaigns to date. You
Yeah,
want
thanks.
to add
Yeah.
anything to that, Lauren?
The only thing is, so another factor is that Condé Nast is reacting really badly to the new digital space. They're losing a lot of money. They also have a really poor work-life balance. Their workers, if you go on their Glassdoor, their workers are very angry and dissatisfied with their job. Anna Winter, who was previously the editor-in-chief, she's just stepped down actually, is just kind of a particular monster. Like she's known for being a notoriously horrible boss. The movie The Devil Wears Prada is about Anna Winter. Um, so there's a lot of little angles where the employees are already dissatisfied, they're already losing money. So we look at like factors that already make them weak as well. And we just try to hit them while they're down. And a really exciting thing is that when we're looking at the prospects of who will take over as editor-in-chief, some of them do look to be a little bit friendlier. We don't know who will be picked right now, but maybe the change in leadership will help this campaign.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to watch develop. Lauren was talking a little bit earlier, just kind of about the communique and sort of how it was written, and the romanticism kind of around it. It was kind of, it seemed like a beautiful moment. And Dr. Vlasic, I wanted to bring it back to you. I've read a lot of these communiques, and it seems like there's always this moment, especially for underground activists who might be doing it for the first time. They have this moment of where they recognize the beauty of the situation, and it seems like something shifts inside them when they see that first animal, when they are actually faced with what these animals endure, and they see it in action. Is that a trend that you've picked up on? And can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think that's always been an important motivator. I think once somebody realizes that they're making a profound difference, one person making a profound difference for not just one or two animals sometimes, but hundreds or even thousands of animals. I don't think there's anything. I mean, I tear up every time I see pictures of captive animals doomed to death in a short amount of time find their freedom, whether it's those who are escaping from a fur farm or whether those that have been set free from other situations. But I don't think there's anything that profoundly affects the human spirit like actually seeing an animal that was about to be murdered, released and given a chance at life. Not all these animals will survive, but they have the chance. They are known to be genetically wild animals, despite being kept for even several generations in captivity. There have been scientific studies that have shown that these animals are perfectly capable of surviving on their own. The fur profiteers and the people at Fur Commission USA always put out a silly little press release saying that half the animals got run over by cars and the other half starved to death or died of exposure within 48 hours. None of that's true, and they only say that to try to change public opinion. But these animals are perfectly capable of surviving, and most will survive when they're liberated. And I don't think there's anything that's more inspiring than to see these animals achieve their freedom, and at the same time know that the amount of economic damages that are being done to the farmer may well result in those farms going out of business. We've seen a number of these farms, after they've been raided, announced that they were going out of business because they're already working at very minimal profit margins anyway, and for them to lose their animals or their basically their entire livelihood, even with insurance, a lot of these people don't recover. And just to make it clear, there's less than 100 of these little mom and pop farms still in existence in this country, and it wouldn't take very many people very long to put them all out of business. And that would be the death knell for the fur industry, in my opinion. Again, there are plenty of fur farms out there just waiting to be raided by people who find themselves to get motivated and go out there and just spend an evening doing something really, really, really worthwhile.
Dr. Vlasic, do you think that more people would take this kind of action if they were confronted with the situation? If they were just, dropped into a fur farm and saw what these animals are going through. I think a lot of people's instinct would just to open up the cages. You know what I mean? Like, do you agree with that?
Well, absolutely, and there's plenty of video footage out there. There's for people to look at and see what the conditions are like. I think the point I want to make is that it's just really easy to do. It's not there isn't a lock that has to be picked on every single cage. There isn't a huge security system in most cases. In most cases, there's almost no security system. A matter of maybe just cutting through a fence and you're there. And the cages are right there, and they're out in the open. They're not barricaded in some type of super secure building or anything. They're not climate controlled. They're just sheds with no sides and no ends on them, and you can just walk right in them and just walk down the row of cages and open the cages and let the animals go free. It's so easy, and it makes such a big difference that I just wish there were more people out there doing them. I was tallying up while we were waiting to go on the line here. I was tallying up, but there's been about 10 fur farm raids in the last 3 years, which is not a lot, but it's a start. And I think if we saw 10 more in the next 2 or 3 years, that would make a huge impact on an industry that's only got less than 100 places left altogether. And I think a lot of those would go out of business. I fully anticipate this dump in Massillon that was just raided 2 weeks ago to be announcing that they're going out of business. There was a group of activists that were going around looking at all the fur farms over the last couple of years and finding farm after farm that's been abandoned or closed down or put out of business. So it's something that we're seeing in real time. It's happening right now, and it will hopefully continue to happen.
I want to open this question up to everybody, anybody who wants to speak on it. But I know when I first started learning about pressure campaigns, one of the biggest critiques that I found from fellow activists is that it doesn't necessarily focus on veganism or, perhaps so-called single issue campaigns are speciesist because some animals are left out of the picture, I guess. Does anybody have a response to that or just kind of want to give their take on that kind of critique?
I kind of like the example you always give, Trey, where if there's a mink in a cage and you can just open the door next to a chicken that's in a cage with 40 locks on it and you have to pick all the locks before you can get to the chicken. It's not speciesist to open up that cage and let the mink out. I really think that we need to get through these low-hanging fruit issues faster, so that we can get to the bigger issues. And I really believe in, like what Jerry said, where an individual can make a big difference. CAFT isn't very big. There's not that many activists. None of us are trained. We're just kind of figuring it out as we go, and we've been able to back up like $1 million companies. One of the LVMH is the biggest company in the world, or owned by the richest man in the world. So I think that I used to be in this camp actually. During the Woolrich campaign, I believe. I don't know which iteration it was. It was the PETA campaign. I remember it was the first time I heard of a pressure campaign, and I was in Boston, and there was like two activists doing it, and I was like, "You make vegans look horrible," and I had a whole thing about it. I went to one of them. I was mortified. I was like, "This is so embarrassing. Why would I ever do this?" But when I got involved with CAF during the Allison Olivia campaign, and I saw that we were able to get a fur-free policy out of them in 11 days of being a little bit uncomfortable. And not even that uncomfortable. It's just kind of like yelling and being a little bit embarrassed in public. I just couldn't turn back because I think it's so effective.
Anything to add, Susie or Dr. Vlasic?
Well, I would just say that I've always just looked at what's effective, and I think a very relatively a small number of people have shown themselves to be effective in getting companies to quit dealing in fur, to getting fur farms to close down, and this targeted campaigning is not speciesist when it's effective. I think we have to look. I mean, going to a Whole Foods on one day and going to a Burger King on another day and going to a fur store on another day, you may feel good about your activism because you're out there every day doing something. But at the end of the day, how effective are you being? What difference are you really making? And we've seen from targeted campaigning or focused campaigning over and over again that these campaigns win. They get people to stop hurting animals. And to me, that's just what it's all about. What works? And if something works, then we should go hard on that and not worry about what other people are saying. Most people aren't going to get involved in this campaign. I mean, there's a couple hundred people maybe all involved in this, and we're having a huge impact. And if just think if we got a couple thousand people involved, how much more impact we could have. Or think if we had 1/100th of the budget of some of these national organizations that are out there doing other things, how effective we could be. So I've just always looked at what works and put my time and energy in that.
I think that's something I think about all the time with human rights, because they get so many people. They get, marches with 10,000 people on the regular, for their issues. And I worry about when animal rights becomes mainstream to the point where we're getting that sort of numbers, because I do feel like you kind of like lose the plot, and there's so much like fodder against doing kind of like ugly campaigns because they make you look bad or they hurt your cause. And I see the environmentalists get it pretty heavily too. Um, and I just feel like it's such a repression tactic. It's kind of like a soft repression to tell people to do the things that aren't effective. And you have so many people that are passionate about things, and they're being kind of like bamboozled into doing things that don't work.
Yeah, I mean, personally, for me, like I think the wins speak for themselves. I mean, yeah, I started learning a lot about pressure campaigns right around that same time as you, Lauren, with the Allison Olivia campaign, and I think we did like one protest in Atlanta, and a couple of days later, they're like, "Oh, well, we won," you know?
And didn't you feel like you won because you were new? I
Yeah, yeah.
I went to like two Alice and Olivia campaigns. I was like, I won the Alice and Olivia campaign.
Well,
Which
I
I
feel like
like that. I feel like a lot of our activists feel like that. I felt that during Marc Jacobs when we had that huge group of people, and a lot of them it was kind of their first experience. I think the fact that these campaigns let everybody feel ownership.
Mhm.
And it's true because you can do any sort of action that you want. Like we don't really control it, and anything that, moves the campaign forward. I love that. I think it's really empowering.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily feel like our group won the campaign, but I did feel like I was a part of something that won because I was and we were, and it was, a mutual effort around the country to get a tangible win, which was not something that I was, used to at that time. So it really, yeah, it really kind of changed my life. And I
Yeah.
want to, Susie, I want to talk to you. What do you want people who are listening right now to do to help CAFT win these campaigns, specifically the one against Berluti and the one against Condé Nast slash Vogue?
I'm going to answer that, but before I do, I just wanted to go back to, what Lauren was saying about low-hanging fruit, and, also just like this subject of this entire live stream, the state of the fur industry. Um, if we can't beat the weakest animal exploitation industry, which is at the moment fur, how are we going to tackle animal agriculture, which is a behemoth? So I think with, every campaign that we win, um, and we will win and we will beat the fur industry, we're picking up valuable skills that we can then use against other issues. Um, but yes, what can people do for CAFT? I'm just going to talk about some important dates that we have coming up because I have to leave soon. So August is going to be packed. We have a lot of stuff going on. So August 14th through the 16th, there's going to be a convergence in London. So some of our awesome partner groups over there, Abolish Fur Worldwide, Dorset Animal Action, and I think it's Southampton Animal Action. So they're doing 3 days focusing on different issues, but they're also going to be focusing very heavily on Berluti. And some of the UK activists have been doing a lot of really great disruptions and protests in the UK. So we're asking activists from all over, the United States, Europe, Asia, South America, wherever, to focus on fur on those 3 dates. So the 14th through the 16th. If you have a fur target in your city, please mobilize people, organize something. If you need help, reach out to us via Instagram. There's also another big convergence or mini convergence coming up in Paris, August 21st to the 23rd. So in solidarity with our amazing partners in Europe, Abolish Fur Worldwide. We're going to be doing tons of stuff here in the United States as well, focusing on Berluti, Loro Piana, and of course Condé Nast. So if you have any of those targets in your city, or if you would like some help finding targets in your city, please reach out to us as well. And then lastly, we are going on a month-long tour. It's called the Rage Tour. It's going to be all of August with our wonderful collaborating organizations, AAC, also ICAW, so International Council for Animal Welfare. It's going to be a bunch of different cities. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but we're going to be going all along the East Coast. So if you want to find out if we're stopping in a city near you, just check out our Instagram. I believe we're going to post some more information next week.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, shout out to Abolish Fur Worldwide. They're crushing it overseas. Yeah, so I have one last planned question that I want to open up to all of you, and then I want to take some questions from the viewers. What does success look like in this fight against fur? Like, is it legal change? Is it cultural change? Is it economic change? Like, I mean, or a little bit of both. I know, like with the Condé Nast campaign, that the culture is sort of what it's about, whereas with Berluti, maybe it's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, and with these underground actions, I think it's sort of a mixture of things too. But I want to get everybody's opinion on this. Dr. Vlasic, if you'd like to start.
Well, success to me is that number 771,000 going down to zero. That no animals are dying to be skinned for their fur here in the United States or anywhere, but certainly what we can do here in the United States for that. So the cultural, I think that a lot of the cultural change, most of the cultural change, I feel like has already taken root. I think most people in this country are against fur. There's a small number that are still trying to eke out a living by promoting fur and selling and designing with fur. And I think that's where CAFT comes in. I think they're doing a really good job of creating a siege mentality and making these people feel like they really don't have an industry to stand on anymore.
I completely agree with that. I think getting that number to zero or as close to zero as we can, because we're never going to be able to control all the trappers, is success. And I think that the means to it, whether it's direct action with ALF actions, pressure campaigns with an organization like CAFT or with CAFT, or even there's orgs like Pro Animal Future and Animal Rights Initiative that are doing ballot initiatives, and they kind of clean up behind us. I know that there's a fur ban happening in Washington that looks really promising. It's set to shut down 4 fur farms in the state of Washington. So I think whatever you can do to get to the win, and I also like having like the least amount of resources to do that. So those orgs, Pro Animal Future and Animal Rights Initiative, are also like operating kind of on like shoestring operations and getting really good progress.
Yeah, shout out to them. Anything to add, Susie?
Yeah, I mean, I think success looks like, taking both things into account, cultural change, economic change. Um, you know, when when fur is no longer a thing, that is success to me. When it's taboo again. I mean, it kind of is, but and also like the more companies that stop selling fur, the easier it is to pass legislation. And I think that's the end goal. Because if there's a very small amount of companies still selling fur, it will be easier because there's going to be less people challenging that legislation and there's going to be more support.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. We do have some questions from the viewers. Our first question, how would the animal rights movement handle the growth of fur farms in a place such as China, where there hasn't been a strong anti-fur movement? LVMH, etc., could still source from them. Any
That's why
takers?
we're targeting the markets. So yeah, we're not going to be able to go to China and liberate all the fur farms, but China does follow Western trends. So that's why we're hitting them on the supply side, and we have seen decreases in China.
Anything to add?
I think Lauren's point is of note that China does follow the West in fashion, and I think if people in the West don't want to wear fur, then people in China aren't going to want to wear fur, and we'll see their fur farms trend out of business as well. And if you look at the worldwide numbers, I don't have that graph in front of me, but the numbers in China follow the numbers in Europe and in the United States. So that when fewer animals are killed in Europe and the United States and fewer animals are killed in China. And I think the natural progression of that is if we beat fur in Europe and the United States, then China won't be this robust fur haven where everybody's selling fur and making fur and yeah.
Cool. We have another question. How can people who might have mobility limitations or other concerns that prevent them from attending protests do to help?
There's a lot of stuff you can do to help. None of it's super fun. But you can, if you pick up a skill, like research, taking research off of people's hands is incredible. Our campaigns take a lot of research. So if you reach out to us, we can plug you in. It kind of depends on the skills you have. Recruiting is a big skill. You can do comment storms, you can do phone calls. I don't know. Did Dr. Vlasic and Susie, do you have anything to add to that?
No,
No?
I think it's great what you said. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I think people just see like videos of protests and they're like, wow, oh my God, like these people are doing it. But there's a lot of people behind the scenes that don't even actually attend protests that like help out with administrative tasks, research, comment storms, phone storms, anything you name it. So graphic design, that's a huge one too. We always need help designing flyers, posters, things like that. So I mean, if that's something that you're interested in and something that you're good at, or even something that you want to learn, there's room for you.
Yeah, there's room for everybody. I remember one year at the AAC Convergence in New York, you guys had an activist that came there and he cooked the whole time. Like he was just in the house cooking for all the activists. And the amount of stress that that took off the week was so incredible. I think about it like every other day. So like there isn't, if whatever your skill is, there is a way to apply it.
Yeah, get creative, folks. Get creative. Um, Another question, is there a book or piece of literature each of you would recommend regarding the topics addressed? Do you want to start, Dr. Vlasic?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very spiritually inspiring book called Flaming Arrows. It was written by a former ALF activist, Rod Coronado, that inspires me every time I reread it. There's a book called Liberate by another former ALF activist, Peter Young, which has a lot of stories about people that have gone out and taken direct action. And there's lots of information in there and lots of hints on how you can get active. So if I had to recommend two books, I would say Liberate by Peter Young and Flaming Arrows by Rod Coronado. Both are available on our website, but they're also available on Amazon. You can get them just pretty much anywhere.
Any other recommendations?
I feel like Dr. Vlasic is like our mentor in this space, so we're gonna say I also have Flaming Arrows and Liberate. Um, Susie, you always recommend Your Neighbor Kills Puppies, I
I'm
feel. I
gonna
haven't
say
read that one yet, though.
that's a really, really good book. It actually just came out not that long ago. So it's Your Neighbor Kills Puppies. It's by Tom Harris. He's a former organizer of the Shat campaign in the UK. Um, it's a really good deep dive into the Shat campaign. So if you're interested in campaigning, pressure campaigns, even about the history of our movement, it is an excellent read. I highly recommend it. The Shat campaign was probably one of the most important campaigns in our movement. So I think people should familiarize themselves with it for sure. I mean, it definitely inspired CAFT.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you guys spoke earlier about, learning from these campaigns and then using those skills to go on and do things in the future. And I think the Shat campaign was where I learned. That's where I came up and learned what I know. So now we're leading the way and showing people how to do things. And one day they'll look back and say, "Yeah, I learned from these guys how to do this." So at least I hope so.
I don't know if this is a question you'll be able to like answer with too much specificity, but someone asked how we can escalate against the brands that have not announced any changes. That's a general question. I would assume it depends on the target and the timing, but maybe you could speak to some escalations that have happened in the past, at least if you can't speak to any that are currently planned.
I think the best escalation is laser focus, which is the most boring one. So I think going out continuously and never letting up off the gas, I think that's the best escalation you have. There's been a lot of people doing disruptions of places. And I think disruptions are great, and I think they're good for energy, and I think they make good videos, and I do think that there's, the staff doesn't like it. But I do kind of think a disruption's worth like half a protest, maybe. But a protest is 2.5 hours long and you lose your voice. And so I do think like as much as you can just like put hours in, I feel like that's the best escalation. And then also I would say our tour. We're going on tour with AAC and ICAW. So that is an escalation in all of our campaigns. And we've recently seen groups in New York start doing home demos against executives at Condé Nast.
And just to,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, just a note about that. With escalations, it's always best to save them. Like we always try, like, different groups try different avenues. There's always, communication with the company, some protests. And when they're really just not listening to you, that's when you escalate. So you have to be strategic about it too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say that, escalation should be used judiciously when it's a good time to use it. And I want to just reiterate that direct action isn't only about opening up cages on fur farms, but direct action can be directly used to escalate a target that maybe the above ground is targeting. So for instance, if somebody's just not budging, despite you doing your peaceful protest or doing your disruptions inside their places of business or going to their corporate headquarters, or eventually even going to their executives' homes and protesting, if somebody just won't budge and you need to get that done, then illegal direct action can sometimes tip it over. So if their car catches on fire or their windows break at night, or if something else like that happens, again, very low risk activities that aren't likely to land anybody in jail. We didn't talk about likelihood of going to jail after this illegal direct action, but it's very, very unlikely. These can add to that escalation, and I think they should be used judiciously when other attempts have failed.
Oh, well, another question is that someone asked is how can we join in on action? So Dr. Vlasic, maybe you can speak to that as far as the ALF goes a little bit, and then we'll come to CAFT.
Yeah, the Animal Liberation Front and other underground organizations aren't something that you can just join. You can't go down to their headquarters and fill out an application. You don't get a membership card. To join the underground, you do something. You go out there either by yourself or with somebody that you really, really trust, and take action for animals. And then you can become the ALF. Each of these cells is autonomous. No one group of people knows who the other group of people are. I certainly don't know who these people are. I don't want to know who these people are. But they're out there doing things and they're being effective. And that's how you become a member of the ALF or another underground action, another activist group, is to just go out there and do something. And there have been hundreds and hundreds of actions that we've reported on, and undoubtedly hundreds more that we've never even found out about out there, and people don't get caught. It's not very common. There's no huge law enforcement presence out there trying to look after people. I mean, occasionally somebody gets caught, but it's very rare. And after literally thousands of actions, I can count on both hands the number of people that have ever gone to jail. It's a very low risk activity.
How can people get involved with CAFT?
You can follow our Instagram, so it's CAFT USA on Instagram, and DM us, and we'll sort you into your city's medium where they talk. So it's kind of different for every city. So we'll just reach out to us and we'll place you. I know that's not the best best answer, but we're working on becoming more organized.
You can also email us at action@caftusa.org.
action@caftusa.org. CAFT is CAFT. Another question, if you could convey one message to anti-fur activists, what would it be? And anybody who's sympathetic to the anti-fur cause. Dr. Vlasic, we'll start with you.
Get off the internet and do something. If you want to get involved with CAF, get involved with CAF. You want to get involved with AAC, get involved with AAC. Look at where you can be the most effective. And for most of us, it's with these grassroots targeted campaigning and direct action groups. If you want to work for a multinational big organization, that's fine too. I mean, they do contribute, and like we were talking about earlier, we're laying the groundwork, but then people come in behind us and pass legislation and do other things that cement these changes. And so there's lots of room for people to do pretty much whatever they want to do.
Susie?
Yeah, I would say just go out there. Go out there and protest or reach out to us if you don't know how to get involved. You don't know what to do. I mean, we'll send you posters, we'll send you flyers, whatever you need. Yeah, we'll find a way to get you
Lauren?
in.
I guess to like link back the communique, like I think it's so easy to doom scroll and to see all of the wars and oppression that's happening in the world and feel really powerless and depressed over it. And I have felt really empowered that I can make this difference. I can see this difference, and it's not about fur, and it doesn't even need to be about animal rights. You can make a difference as a small group of people if you're willing to kind of like laser focus and hone in. So I think that it's really empowering. Like you don't need a lot of money, you don't need a lot of skills. All you need is kind of like an attitude that you can do it and the willingness to do it the right way.
I've
Yeah.
been around a long time and I've seen a lot of people really change their lives for the better by getting involved in one form or another. It'll make you a better person. It'll make you feel better about yourself. It'll make you it'll just change your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that all of your answers sort of circle back around to what was said in that communique, which is, stop thinking about it, go do it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Animal Activism Collective has a free mentorship program for people who want to get involved in activism, whatever kind of activism you want to get involved in. We can help you with that, and you can sign up for free at animalactivismcollective.com, or you can visit our link tree on our Instagram page at Animal Activism Collective. Um, Here's an interesting question. It seems like some animal protection groups have prematurely announced a victory against fur. Could you discuss the potential issues associated with doing so? I'm not sure what this person's referring to specifically. Maybe we can leave out names of other orgs and stuff like that, but it would be a good thing to talk about if any of you know about anything like this.
Um, I think sometimes they different groups have different standards for what they will accept as a fur-free policy, and that's valid. CAFT will accept a fur-free policy that doesn't include Angora because that's industry standard right now, and we're willing to kind of get what we can get and make the difference that we can make. Other orgs, this is kind of like a point where CAFT is a little bit strict on it. We'll accept like without a date. So if I run Walmart and I'm going for free and I say Walmart is going for free, some groups would consider that a fur free policy. We would not. We would need them to say Walmart will be fur free as of January 1st, 2026. So it is just it's chalked up to what the goals are of the org. Sometimes, campaigns are more to generate media attention. So, I don't know if CAF can say what's premature and what's not, but we tend to want a time bound for free policy.
Anybody else got anything to add, or we can move on to the next question? Um, Thank you for that, Lauren. Another question, could you elaborate on what factors led to a victory against Alice and Olivia within 10 days or whatever it was, when targeted by CAFT in comparison to a decade-long effort that did not succeed previously?
Honestly, COVID was huge. COVID-19 kind of cut everybody, they just kind of like ruined the activism scene. But CAFT popped up kind of in the vacuum. And I know that I had been doing different forms of like outreach activism at the time and hadn't really been into protesting. And but I lost that because it shut down during COVID. So what happened was instead of big orgs that were targeting Alice and Olivia via like emails and, once every 6 months protest, they were having dozens of cities jump on and hit them at the same time. So it's really about us being able to target them like as a collective.
Anything to add, Susie?
She wasn't there.
Um, yeah, I mean, um, I think it's interesting what you said about COVID. I mean, obviously the tactics were different, and CAFT has just been able to get victories. I'm not taking anything away from that. I think CAFT's amazing, but yeah, just knowing the right time to jump on it. I mean, CAFT really kind of came around. The resurgence of CAFT came around, and I think of around 2020 when things were going south with the fur industry because of COVID. So, knowing when to strike and knowing when you might be able to take out an entire industry or start to do that, I think, is something to think about as well. Really good question. Um, how can we target Vogue and Condé Nast in Europe?
Oh, where in Europe? Um, you can DM us, because it depends. But we can get you set up for sure.
I mean, they have offices in Europe for sure. Uh, Special events. That's something that we always try to look out for. Um, yeah, but DMS.
So that would be like a protest at a special event. But yeah, there's definitely ways to get involved in Europe.
Awesome. I think that okay, maybe we've got time for one more question. Do you ever cross over with other human rights groups? I guess that probably means like, do you ever collaborate with human rights groups?
Like honestly, not really. And it's not really uh, we all as like individuals support various human rights issues. But the capacity, I would say like we all attend, maybe on the attendee level for human rights stuff, but I wouldn't say we're making a big difference in that space or collaborating meaningfully. But I mean, I would say that all of these things feed into each other. I think a radical animal rights movement kind of trickles up, and I hope that it impacts the social justice space as a whole. And I also think that fur is decimating the living spaces of Indigenous people. And there's a real case to be made that a lot of these fur farmers were kind of thrown into this industry. A lot of them are passed down in their families, and they don't really have the financial way to get out. So they're kind of like trapped in this industry that gives them high rates of PTSD, suicide, and different diseases from being around animal feces. So I would say, the tertiary effects of our campaigns help some humans, but I don't think we collaborate meaningfully. Do you agree with that, Susie? I don't know.
I mean, we would be open to it, but yeah, I think just capacity, we don't have the capacity at the moment. But yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here and for, all the expertise that you've lended to this conversation. The chat has been kind of blowing up, with people engaged in the conversation. So thankful for that. We're going to wrap up momentarily, but I'd love to, be able to open the floor for any kind of final thoughts or calls to action right now. Dr. Vlasic, we'll start with you.
Well, it's been said over and over again, but let's just say it one more time. Get out there and just do something. And if you have the capabilities and the wherewithal to perform illegal direct action, I think you're getting your best bang for your buck. I think you can do more for animals on any given night by liberating them or inflicting economic sabotage on those who profit from animals. If you're not so inclined for that route, then get connected with Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade and participate in a targeted campaign and make the lives uncomfortable of people who are exploiting animals for their fur. And lastly, let's all just concentrate on the fur trade. We've got them on the ropes. We're going to win, and it would be a big mistake for us to say we won and move on. There's still 771,000 animals that died in the United States and were skinned for their fur, and that's 771,000 too many. So I would just urge everybody to let's keep the pressure on. They're on the ropes. We can win this, and let's just stay with it.
Susie?
Yeah, I would just say, stay focused, like Dr. Vlasic said, stay focused on the fur industry. We have the power to end this industry. Now is the time. So just, get out there and do something, do anything. You all have the power to do it.
Lauren, close us out.
I would say try to follow AAC and get yourself to a convergence. I've seen so many people turn into leaders at convergences because they develop a community of like-minded people who care about changing the world for animals. And you can meet kind of people across the spectrum. You'll meet Dr. Vlasic there sometimes. You'll meet CAFT people there. You'll meet legislative folks. So I think it's a really good way to get tapped into the international network.
Awesome. We're about to close out. There was one question I just want to address very quickly that someone brought up. If the cops are called, what do we do? AAC has an entire workshop about being a police liaison and how to handle police at protests. And then someone brought up, what if someone's in fear of being deported or something like that? I think you could rewatch this and go back to the portion where we were talking about different forms of activism where you can be involved in the campaigns without necessarily having to be on the street. I think some of those ideas would be really good to check out. Research being amongst one of the highly needed things. So I wanted to bring that up real quick because I thought that was an important question. But thank you all so much for being here. To everybody that joined, we appreciate you. Be sure to visit the Animal Liberation Press Office at their website, animalliberationpressoffice.org. Be sure to visit CAFT at caftusa.org. You can follow them at CAFTUSA, and you can follow Animal Activism Collective on Instagram as well, and animalactivismcollective.com. Thank you all so much for joining this live stream, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for organizing.
Great, Trey. Thanks for doing it.